You want to cut back on alcohol. You've even tried a few times, yet somehow Friday night rolls around, there you are, glass in hand, making the same old excuse about just want to relax or I just enjoy the beer or the wine. What if I told you alcohol isn't actually helping you unwind at all? Today, my guest is a former ESPN anchor and the founder of Alcohol-Free Lifestyle, and he's revealing the neuroscience behind why smart, successful people continue drinking despite often knowing better. You'll discover why willpower fails, how alcohol sabotages your fitness goals, even a little bit of drinking, and a practical approach to breaking free without depriving yourself. If you want to stop letting alcohol rob you of mental clarity and physical results, this conversation is for you. Welcome to Wits and Weights, the show that helps you build a strong, healthy physique using evidence, engineering, and efficiency. I'm your host, Philip Pape, and today we're discussing a topic that affects nearly everyone pursuing better health and fitness, and that is our relationship with alcohol, with drinking. We all know that alcohol isn't great for our health goals, but many of us, especially high achievers, continue drinking regularly despite knowing better. And why is that? And can we approach this in a way that doesn't feel like deprivation? To answer these questions, I'm joined by James Swanwick, a former SportsCenter anchor on ESPN, host of the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle podcast, and author of a new book, Clear, which gives you a neuroscience-based method to quit drinking based on root causes and not on brute force or willpower. Today, you'll learn why smart people keep drinking even when they want to stop, the false beliefs we construct around alcohol, how drinking affects your fitness goals, and of course, some tips to break free from alcohol without feeling deprived. James, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here, Philip.
So rather than jump into the topic of why people drink, I'm curious about when alcohol became so normal. Like why and when did it become so normal in society?
It starts when we are little kids and our parents say to us, or the adult figures in our life say to us, oh, no, little Philip or James, you can't drink now. You can drink when you're older. And so our parents or the adult figures in our life implant this idea that drinking alcohol is something to aspire to. It's a rite of passage. You get to do it. It's something to savor. I would submit that is a nonsense. It's just attractively packaged poison, but that's where it starts. Also, there's this conditioning that in order to create romance, in order to create camaraderie, in order to create celebration, we must have attractively packaged poison present, which of course is a ridiculous notion. However, that has been passed forward through generations after generation. And now we're in this, what I submit is this ridiculous cultural society where we have just normalized drinking this poison, which, as you referenced, can be so damaging. And I don't mean so damaging because you're waking up in a ditch or you're drinking excessively. I mean so damaging that you only have one or two seemingly innocent drinks per day. That can still be damaging. And I call that death by 1,000 cuts. It's not the waking up in a ditch, getting arrested, like doing anything too crazy, but over many years and decades, it catches up with you.
Attractively packaged poison. I like it. Okay. So we know where we're going with this show. I want to pull on a thread there when you talk about conditioning from a young age. I definitely see that. My dad drank beer pretty much regularly, like all his friends and all his peers. And I drank quite a bit most of my adult life. What about cultures where it is not as aspirational? And I don't know if those exist. Like people think of France, kids start drinking from a young age or whatever age, and it's not as taboo. Are there any differences there that we see? Or is it pretty much the same thing, just at different ages?
I would submit it's the same thing, different ages.
Okay.
I mean, there are some cultural differences where, like you referenced in France, people kind of build this idea of like connection and family. We must drink this poison. But I'm saying you can build connection and family without drinking the poison.
Mm-hmm.
And, the French may feel like, oh, this is a great way to create family ties, etc. But at what cost? And that's what I really try to do in my book, Clear, and what I try to do with my work, which is we're so focused on normalizing this alcohol and we justify it. Oh, yeah, it's fine to give kids of 14, 15, 16 alcohol in France, as long as they're not getting drunk. It's just a little thing. It's fine. But what we're doing is we're setting them up for a lifetime of drinking habits. And again, in 2022, there was a study out of the UK of 35,000 middle-aged adults, which showed that even one seemingly innocent drink per night was enough to cause some level of gray and white matter destruction in the brain. In other words, some level of brain degeneration. And yet, culturally, we hang on to this idea that drinking is fine, it's fine, it's fine, it's no big deal. I'm not an alcoholic, I'm not getting arrested, it's fine. It's not fine. And all of the new studies are showing that, like the strain it puts on our heart, on our liver, on our sleep, on our gains that we want in the gym, the additional calories we're consuming that we ordinarily would not if we weren't drinking, which can lead to a loss of confidence, which can lead to craving more sugary foods, which can lead to overeating, which can lead to obesity, which can lead to irritation and stress and frustration. I'm trying to really articulate to people that the death by 1,000 cuts are often silent cuts, invisible. You don't see them. But if we trace it all back, we can trace it back to starting drinking at age 14 or 15.
Yeah, and I would love the listener to come out of this episode, even if they're skeptical or objective in terms of the cost benefit. You know, a lot of people do the cost benefit trade-offs of any of this stuff. I mean, you know, obviously nobody says, here's a little oxy, it's okay. Here's a little heroin, it's okay. And there's a cultural difference in how we treat alcohol as a premise, right, that we have to break through. But then if we could get to the point where someone says, look, even one drink a month is a problem, and or here's the trade-off I'm making, that would be helpful. You mentioned gains. That's like the key word, man, for everybody listening. They're like, okay, you got my attention now, James. Let's talk about how it hurts my gains. But really, I want to go back to why people then defend it, besides the generalities that we talked about, why specific people rationalize it, even when they know that it's bad. And we're going to get into why it's not great and why it's death by 1,000 cuts. But most people know, let's be honest, right? And those in my community who listen to this podcast, we definitely have talked about the hormonal impacts, the fat loss impacts, you know, excessive consumption, sleep impacts, all of that. We'll get into that. But why do people defend it, you know, in your practice?
People have been using it to relieve themselves of stress and anxiety. And they become addicted to that way of relieving themselves of stress and anxiety. The irony is that we're drinking it to relieve ourselves of the very stress and anxiety that drinking itself is creating in the first place. And then we get stuck on this vicious stop-start cycle, this vicious cycle. We're also in our reptilian brain, if we go back hundreds of thousands of years, and if you understand the concept of Dunbar's tribe, Dunbar suggested that we used to be in tribes of about 160 people when we roamed the earth. And back then, if you were ostracized from the tribe for whatever reason, the tribe kicked you out, did the wrong thing, something happened, that meant almost certain death because a rival tribe would kill you, or the saber-toothed tiger would chase you and eat you, or the bear would get you, or the wolf would get you, or you'd die of isolation somehow. Now, the reality is in the modern world, we're not going to die from being kicked out of a tribe. But nevertheless, that reptilian fear that we have still exists. And so that shows up with, oh, if I'm not drinking, my friends will kick me out of the tribe. Society will kick me out of the tribe. It's this irrational fear in the modern world, a rational fear in the, years and years and years and years ago, centuries ago, but an irrational fear in today's world. So we keep justifying it because it makes us feel safe. We keep justifying it because it temporarily numbs us from the pain of being ourselves. Because reaching for a drink is really only reaching for the pursuit of feeling something different in the moment. In most cases, people with a drinking problem, let's say, are drinking to relieve themselves of an uncomfortable feeling. And so if you then remove this thing that they've been trained to go to when they feel discomfort of any kind, well, what are they left with? Discomfort. And that feels awful and unsettling, which is why people defend it so much, because it does give them that temporary relief, because it does numb themselves from the pain, because it does allow them to procrastinate on key strategic decisions in their life. And also, in addition, there are smiling assassins all over the world. And a smiling assassin is someone who's smiling as they offer you a drink. or as they're drinking with you. It's the waiter or the waitress who says, "Hello, Mr. Pape, can I get you started with a glass of 10 pounds of unwanted body weight? Hello, Mr. Swanwick, can I get you started with a bad night's sleep and some shame and regret in the morning?" That's essentially what they're saying when they show up and they're like, "Oh, hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. I'll be your waiter tonight. I'll be your server. Can I get you started from the drinks menu?" And then our friends are smiling. "Hey, Phil, can I get you a drink? James, can I get you a drink?" And they try to be hospitable hosts. That's very nice of them, offering me a drink, but they're offering me attractively packaged poison. And so if everyone, as they're consuming this alcohol, is smiling and portraying this image of camaraderie, then the idea that you would stop drinking unconsciously or consciously means you are now rejecting the camaraderie, you're rejecting the tribe, you're rejecting culture.
Yeah. Fear of getting kicked out of the tribe. Hence commercials that portray huge parties and a grand old time when drinking. It's interesting because philosophically, I don't know if you found this to be true in your life, not even with alcohol, but with anything. It seems like the thing everyone doing, often not the thing we want to be doing. Do you notice that? Okay, so there's a little carve out in there I want to address because people are going to say, well, what if I'm the type of person who I drink one beer every 3 weeks and it's at home by myself or with my family because I like the taste of beer, right? Those kinds of, I'm trying to dig into some of the rationales people have, and I'm curious about those.
If they're drinking one beer every 3 weeks, candidly, I don't see there's any real issue with that. If you generally like the taste and you're drinking a beer or two every 3 weeks, that's not going to cause too many problems from my research and for what I have read. But then the question really is are you sure that it's only 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure it's every 3 weeks? And most people, if they're honest, when they dig into it, they go, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm drinking a little bit more consistently than I would like to admit. In that scenario, Philip, there's no real challenge, no real problem, long-term health consequences. Short-term, sure, because if you're drinking beer anywhere close to bedtime, that's going to compromise your sleep. And when you have a compromised sleep, you wake up just a little bit irritable, just a little bit more fatigued, a little bit more tired. Your body stores a little bit more fat. You don't lift as heavy in the gym. You're not as motivated to go to the gym in the first place. Because you're tired, you might then reach for a sugary food to give you a little bit of an energy boost. So ordinarily, you wouldn't eat the chocolate bar or the muffin, but now you reach for the chocolate bar and the muffin. Or the Gatorade instead of a soda water, and now you're drinking some more sugar. And you know what I mean? So these kind of things can really happen. And most people are drinking close to bedtime. That destroys your sleep. What you're essentially doing when you drink close to bedtime is clocking in for a night's work at a time when you are supposed to be clocking out from the day's work. Your body wants to be resting. It doesn't want to be working. So again, coming back to it, look, a drink on occasion here and there, as long as you don't feel like it's compromising your life, no problems. But, be aware, even that is going to compromise your sleep, which is going to compromise the following day.
Yeah, and I think people will sometimes they'll compare alcohol to, say, poor food choices. And I'm all about flexible dieting, right? Like if you're eating 80%, 90% whole nutritious foods, then indulge in the rest. You're probably in the top 95% as far as diets go. But what are your thoughts about that when people compare the allowances they give themselves for that flexibility on the food side versus the alcohol side? Because I feel like there's zero benefit to alcohol, whereas the food at least has contextual benefit.
I mean, why are we negotiating with ourselves over this? Like, why are we still clamoring on? How can I have a drink? Can I have a drink?
Mm-hmm.
I'll just drink on weekends. I'll just drink on special occasions. What is it about it that's so special? It's piss in an attractive bottle. Like, I really challenge this. The first time anyone had a drink, probably you were 12, 13, 14, you had a sip or something. Did it taste nice?
Nope.
Of course It didn't. I remember my dad gave me brandy and I spat it out and went, ugh. So it naturally doesn't taste good. We've acquired the taste as we've gone along. Again, why are we just so in love with this damn thing? Do you remember the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark with
of course.
Indiana Jones? In the first scene where he's got the idol and he's running away from the boulder, and then he kind of escapes the boulder, but then the Nazi is there with the tribesmen, and the tribesmen are all got their bows and arrows pointed at him. And he has to hand over reluctantly the idol to the Nazi sympathizer. And the Nazi sympathizer holds up the idol. And all of the tribesmen quickly stop pointing the bow and arrow at Indiana Jones and start bowing down and saluting this idol, this golden idol. And that enables Indiana Jones to make his escape. That's what we're doing with alcohol. We're bowing down and worshiping the idol of alcohol. And I say, why? I say, why are we worshiping this false god? Because it's like a toxic friend. It doesn't want you to leave it, doesn't want you to break up with it. It doesn't do anything good for you, doesn't serve you. And yet you're staying in this toxic relationship. You're choosing to stay in this toxic relationship while simultaneously bowing down and saluting it. So we're frustrated by the consequences of the relationship, yet we're still, like in the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, bowing down and worshiping it. So just stop worshiping it. Stop clinging to this idea like, oh, but I can just drink on a special occasion. Why is drinking worthy of being referred to as a special occasion? The special occasion is health, joy, clarity, focus, a good night's sleep, great connection, fun, laughter, movement, connection, gratitude. That is the special occasion, and you can have a special occasion every damn day of your life living alcohol free.
Yeah, I love it. And I think, at least in my personal experience, the relationship with alcohol for me, and I've seen this for a lot of people, evolved as I embraced a healthy lifestyle elsewhere, right? And I think that's, at least those listening to this show, I'm hoping that, you know, this episode I can share with them to say, look, you care so much about lifting, moving, eating right, mental health, walking, sleeping. Why is this special is what you're saying. And so maybe we hit on the top couple reasons. One you already mentioned, which is that we think it relieves stress and we think it's going to help us unwind. And it's even worse when we do it at night. But why isn't that the case? Why does it not actually relieve stress and what's happening physiologically?
Yeah, well, it actually creates more stress. Temporarily, when we drink it, it gives us this temporary illusionary sense of relief, right? So it does provide this feeling of relief for a little while, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. But then the consequences of that relief then create more stress and anxiety that leaves you craving, wanting to relieve yourself of stress and anxiety. And it's this perpetual vicious cycle. It's this merry-go-round that you just are unable to get off. When we drink, the body straight away recognizes it as a foreign poison, and the body then goes to work to try to rid itself of the poison. We're consuming toxins. The body doesn't like these toxins. The body's then saying, how do I get rid of these toxins? So you're now putting undue strain, unwanted, undesirable strain on the body. The liver goes to work. The heart rate increases. That puts pressure on the heart. The enzymes, liver enzymes go up. It also has us increasing our appetite. So we end up eating more food than we might ordinarily eat just because we've drunk a glass of red wine or a beer or a scotch or whatever. Like all of a sudden, because it's turning into sugar, it leaves our body going, oh, okay, I want more of this. Let me get more of this. You ever, haven't eaten carbs for a while and then you start eating carbs and then you just really desire more carbs? That's what happens.
Deprivation amplifies desire. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And think about it. Like you go to a restaurant and you sit down and you're trying to do a cut and you're trying to watch your calories, you're trying to lose some weight, and you say, I'm not having the dessert tonight. No way. Then the smiling assassin comes over and says, oh, can I get you a glass of wine? And I'll just have a glass of Riesling or just one glass of white wine. Well, okay, you're just drinking 300 calories in that white wine, same amount of calories as a donut or a packet of crisps. But more than that, because the drink now increases your appetite, now when the dessert menu comes over, the smiling assassin goes, oh, well, can I get you some dessert, some cake? Would you like the cookie? And you're like, all right, okay. Anyone want to split it with me? All right, okay, we'll have it after all. And then you have that cake. Half a cake, a few bites, maybe the whole damn thing. And then you get into the taxi or the Uber and you go home and you go to sleep, and then you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, man, I wish I didn't have that glass of wine and that piece of cheesecake last night, right? And now you've undone all the good work that you had. So, look, it causes the body to go to work. But you don't want the body to go to work, at least not in that way. You want the body to go to work when you're in the gym and you're looking for gains. You want to build some muscle, you're looking to burn some fat. That's when you want the body to work. But guess what? A great night's sleep is where the repair from that work happens. But when you are looking to rest, to grow the muscle, to get the gains, you're now saying, oh no, we're not going to rest. I'm putting you to work again. The body's unable to do what you want it to do from the intention that you have from going to the gym in the first place.
Yep. So does it also impact hormones? My understanding is that moderate, almost daily drinking does have a really insidious impact on hormones.
Lowers libido in men, raises the risk of breast cancer in women, slows down the metabolism. So if you're looking to burn unwanted body weight, for example, it's not going to happen if you're drinking, or it's not going to happen as effectively if you are drinking. You're just literally pouring more calories in and also slowing down the process. There's a couple of studies out. I'll have to dig in a little bit more into those studies, but they found that like 1 or 2 drinks the night before is enough to slow down your metabolism to the point of a few pounds a week. Mm-hmm. I'd have to dig into that a little bit more, but I know that your listeners here are particularly interested in lifting weights and gains and losing weight, muscle and things like that. So if let's just say fat loss is your goal, that can slow down your metabolism enough to have you feeling frustrated that you're not losing as much weight. I'm actually on a cut at the moment. I'm tracking all of my food with MyFitnessPal, and I'm walking 17,000 steps a day at the moment, and I'm trying to do like under 1,650 calories a day, and I've been tracking it. And in the first 7 days, I lost a lot of money. Not a lot of money, I'm sorry, a lot of pounds. I lost like 6 pounds in a week. And then it kind of stalled, and I got a bit frustrated. I go, what's going on? And then when I kind of dug into it, I realized I wasn't entering a couple of drinks, not alcoholic drinks, but I wasn't adding electrolyte drinks and some coffee into the app. I was just putting the food, not the liquids. And when I looked at like the electrolytes, how many calories and stuff were in the electrolytes, I was like, oh my God, there's like 100 there. And oh my God, the coffee there's like a 50 or 100 there, depending if it's a latte or not. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's 200, maybe 300 calories a day over 7 days. That's 2,100 calories. Like
to half pound, yeah, at least.
That's enough for you not to lose that weight. So the same thing with the alcohol, right? Not only is it additional calories, but it's the slowing down of the metabolism. It's the disruption of the hormones, your melatonin release. Melatonin is an important hormone for sleep that doesn't release in the way that nature intended it to release when you drink, destroys sleep. So yes, there's massive hormonal effects if you drink even innocent amounts of alcohol.
Yeah, people need to understand this because there's cascading effects. There's the stoppage of fat oxidation because the toxins have to be metabolized first. There's all of that. And the last question I guess I have before we get into the neuroscience and then how we break this habit, because ultimately people are like, okay, now what do we do? Is there anything else you would put at the same level as alcohol, assuming someone is not smoking or taking drugs? Is there anything else you would put equivalent to alcohol or near it, or is it in a class of its own?
That's a great question. There's a couple of studies that have come out over the past 5 or 6 years. So just before the pandemic hit, there was a study that I referenced in my book, Clear, which showed the damage and harm to individuals and the damage and harm to society, and it listed the whole lot of drugs. Would you be shocked to learn that alcohol is actually more damaging to society than cocaine? Like, that's extraordinary. It's something like, I have to reference the book a little bit better here, but there's like heroin, crack cocaine, meth, alcohol, and then there's like cocaine and things, and it goes down from there, right? And ketamine and things like that. So alcohol is in the top 3 or 4 most damaging things to society, either slightly above or slightly under consequence significance than meth and crack and heroin. Like, crazy in terms of the damage to society. The fact that alcohol would even be close to heroin and the impact on society is astounding. And yet it's legal. It's on every corner. We smile when we consume it. It's just because it's death by 1,000 cuts. And we don't see it so obviously in front of our eyes until years, decades have passed.
Yeah, many people are opting into this. And like you said, even as a society, we've opted in. And I'm sure it's a function of scale too, right? Just the fact that that's the case, it means it's just pervasive everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if someone says, all right, I get it, it's not great, there's no benefits, it's a poison, death by 1,000 cuts, what do I do about this? I know you know, in your book, which when we scheduled this, I don't even think it was out yet, and it came out pretty recently, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did, yeah. Came out in March of 2025, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, just a couple months ago. So you definitely talk about the neuroscience there, dopamine and the reward centers and all of that. Where's the best place to start so that someone understands like how they're altering their brain and how they can then use that information to change their behavior?
Stop saying to yourself, you need to stop, I have to quit, don't drink. Because the mind doesn't understand the negative command. It just hears the word alcohol. So a lot of us are walking around saying, geez, I need to quit. I hope I don't drink tonight. And there's a bundle of nerves in the brain called the RAS, which stands for reticular activating system. And those bundle of nerves are like a laser-seeking missile, which is, it will focus on whatever it is that you are repeatedly thinking about. So if you are repeatedly thinking about alcohol, even if you're saying don't drink, need to quit, you're thinking about alcohol, alcohol, alcohol. So it's a lot easier for you to drink alcohol. It's harder for you to stop, right? On the flip side of that, if you say to yourself what you will do, I'm easily going to drink soda, water, ice, and a piece of lime tonight. I'm easily going to walk up to the barman and say, you know what, give me a soda, water, ice, and a splash of cranberry. Now that's very easy. The mind and the reticular activating system understands that positive command. We're telling ourselves what to do as opposed to telling ourselves what not to do. And when we tell ourselves what to do, it's a lot simpler and a lot easier for us to achieve and accomplish that very thing.
You know, I was thinking about how we're titling this episode, and when I look at your content and everything, I think we start from the quit and the stop and the have to not drink alcohol, right? Because that's how we reach someone who's thinking that way. I don't know if you agree with that, but like you see it in the marketing side. And then I imagine you have to then do the switch and say, it's kind of like I talk to people and they're like, I've got to lose weight. And I say, well, really, we're not trying to lose weight. We're trying to build muscle, and we're trying to add in nutritious foods, and we're trying to add in protein, and we want to. So I love that it's directly tied to our brain in that way. So what are your thoughts on that then? The language we use, the marketing, the whole kind of journey that people go through from the initial recognition to the switch.
People are always saying sober, sobriety, recovery, clean. We don't use any of that language in our organization at Alcohol Free Lifestyle. We use the phrase alcohol free. We're choosing an alcohol free lifestyle. The name of my coaching organization is called Alcohol Free Lifestyle. And the key word there is lifestyle. It's a style of life. It's not needing to be sober and white knuckling it and trying to be like, sober, sobriety, recovery, clean, surrender to a higher power. We dismiss all of that verbiage. It's been used for 75, 80 years. And that's why AA, who really uses that language, has a 7% success rate and a 93% failure rate if you judge success over long term. So we instead say we get to be alcohol free. We choose to be alcohol free, as opposed to I need to be sober. I'm sobriety. I'm 3 years sober. I'm like, 3 years sober means that you've probably been white knuckling it for 3 years. Whereas we get to be alcohol free. I get to choose this lifestyle. That's the kind of verbiage difference. And instead of using phrases like I need to, I have to, which feels very draining and heavy and tough and implies friction, we say, I choose to, I get to, I want to. And it might seem, a minor thing, but we arise in language. We are language. And so the subtle changes there can have profound generational impact.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's parallels with positive psychology. Not sure how familiar you are with that field, but it's only about 20 years old, right? Where traditional psychology focused on the negative of the syndromes, of the disorders of our brain. And then positive psychology came along and said, well, positive isn't the opposite of negative. Positive is its own thing. It's independent of negative. The more positivity we add in, to simplify it, it can crowd out the negative, I guess is one way to put it. I see the same thing with nutrition or a fitness lifestyle, right? We choose to train 3 days a week because X, right? Because it supports our goals. And you then find out how you're going to change your schedule around that, which then ends up getting rid of your Netflix binging here or your, unproductive activity over here, or whatever. So I think that is powerful, James. I'm glad you brought that up because there's a lot to be said for language. So if someone's listening and saying, okay, I'm a casual drinker, right? I'm not speaking necessarily to alcoholics here, but I'm a casual drinker. I still think I want to drink because of the social experience, but now I understand why that's just a false belief, let's say. I still love the taste of beer, or I still love the taste of wine, or whatever, again, rationale. What's the first step? Is it what they tell themselves, or is it coming up with a behavior that replaces it?
Well, first step is identifying that you can have a better and more fun and a preferable lifestyle being alcohol-free and choosing alcohol-free. Once you believe that, then it becomes very easy to live an alcohol-free lifestyle. But while you are maintaining this, what I would submit, mistaken belief that alcohol equals fun and not drinking alcohol equals deprivation and pain, it's going to be very, very challenging, which is why these 30-day challenges are mostly ineffective over the long term, because people are going in there trying to get to 30 days, white-knuckling it, depriving themselves. And what do they do on day 30, Philip? They celebrate with a drink, and they return to the same level of drinking that inspired them to want to stop in the first place. So the first thing is trying to rewire the mindset, and this is what we do in our 90-day stop drinking process, which is called Project 90, and which we outline in the book Clear, which is we try to rewire your mindset, and that is taking it from drinking equals fun and pleasure and connection and romance, and not drinking equals pain and suffering and deprivation, to drinking equals pain and suffering, and not drinking equals joy and ease and calm and relationship and romance and fun and celebration. So that's the first step. It's that mindset. And that's why people come to us. We try to help them rewire their mindset around that. And the second thing is kind of what James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, talks about, which is setting yourself up to win with your environment. So that is removing the cues that gets you to drink in the first place in your home. So, for example, a lot of people have bottles of wine and a liquor cabinet and wine glasses and corkscrews and posters with beer things on it and all these kind of shrines to alcohol. My invitation is remove that, because all of those cues, those visible cues, are making you think about alcohol, and so then you're more likely to go and drink alcohol. In other words, just get it out of the home. Now, this is not about trying to remove yourself from all circumstances in life where alcohol is present, because that's unrealistic. Alcohol will always be there. It will always be flowing. There'll always be colleagues. There'll always be friends, families, parties, bars, restaurants. But in your own home, you can remove it, right? Get it out of the home. And then replace it with visible cues of health and vitality. I suggest to our clients, you buy yourself a bouquet of flowers, whether you're a man or a woman. You get glass mason jars, and you strategically leave them around the house. So when you see the glass mason jars, you think about drinking water. You go and you fill up water with some purified water. You drink the water. The flowers are a visible representation of health and vitality and color and scent. Think of those flowers as your own body. The flowers need sunlight. The flowers need water, needs water replacing. Look at those flowers each day and go, oh, I need sunlight. I need water replacing. Let me go outside. Let me go for a walk. The other thing is there's a lot of studies that suggest that you can reduce cravings for any drug, including alcohol, by just having a daily gratitude practice. So a lot of the things that we do with our clients in our Project 90 Stop Drinking process is we have them for 90 straight days write down 20 things that they are grateful for. We call it the Daily 20. And just that exercise alone, living a life of appreciation instead of expectation, is enough to reduce cravings by an incredible 30% plus. In addition to that, the way in which you share with friends and family and colleagues that you're not drinking is more important than what you actually say. A lot of people mistakenly think they've got to come up with some logical reason as to why they're not drinking. But there's a lot of studies of human behavior and psychology and influence that shows that to influence anyone, it's only 7% what you say and 93% how you say it. And how you say it is body language, tonality, pacing, facial gestures. So instead of going into a situation where someone's going, why aren't you drinking? Instead of, oh, yeah, I wish I could. No, I'm doing this 30-day challenge. I'm doing this. Oh, I'm sober. And you're implying that not drinking is boring and dull. Instead, you go, oh, no, I'm alcohol free at the moment. I'm like 90 days, I'm in 6 months. I'm feeling pretty good. I lost a bit of weight. I'm sleeping better. Feeling pretty good, but I'll get drunk on this soda water tonight. Look out. Ha, ha, ha. Now you're doing this energy transfer of, I'm thrilled to be alcohol free. I'm owning it. And we can just relax and have a good time. You drink your drinks. I'll drink my alcohol free drinks. Now everyone can have a good time. So there would be some of the things that I would get people started with. And, most importantly, I think is just own the fact that you love being alcohol free, love it, feel good about it, and people will relax and they won't judge you.
This is so good. This is gold. It's funny you were saying that because it works with other things. Like we homeschool our kids, and sometimes you'll get a lot of cynicism from people like, whoa, what are you going to do about high school? Oh, how are they going to get this and that? And, some people try to defend themselves and we're like, yeah, thanks for asking. Like, we love it because of this. So almost like toxically positive, but not really. I mean, people will say I'm a positivity bully. I'm a big fan of reframing, like you just suggested. You also mentioned the cues, which works well for food as well. We talked about your food environment. We just went to Disney World, and there's a lot of opportunities to see alcohol at different bars and restaurants. And one of my kids said, well, isn't that pretty? And I said, what are you talking about? She said, all the bottles up behind the bar. And I'm like, we do glamorize the beauty of it through the packaging, through, the liquor bottles, the vodka, right? You know what I'm saying? Where even my little 11-year-old thinks it's pretty.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Philip. I personally worked with Philip for about 8 months, and I lost a total of 33 pounds of scale weight and about 5 inches off my waist. A few things I really enjoy about working with Philip is, number one, he's really taken the time to develop a deep expertise in nutrition and also resistance training. So he has that depth if you want to go deep on the whys with Philip. But if you want to just kind of get some instruction and more practical advice and a plan on what you need to do, you can pull back and communicate at that level also. He is a lifter himself, so he's very familiar with the performance and body composition goals that most lifters have. And also Philip is trained in engineering, so he has some very efficient systems set up to make the coaching experience very easy and very efficient. And you can really track your results, and you will have real data when you're done working with Philip, and also have access to some tools likely that you can continue to use. If all that sounds interesting to you, Philip, like all good coaches, has a ton of free information out there, and really encourage you to see if he may be able to help you out. So thanks again, Philip.
All of this is great. So anyway, I'm just sharing some personal anecdotes. Just to recap for the listener, the first thing you said was embracing this as a lifestyle, as a positive, being proud, being positive, saying like, being alcohol free is the thing I want to be. It's aligned with my goals. Of course, I'm not ashamed of it. Of course, I'm going after it. The second thing you mentioned was removing the cues. We just touched on that a little bit. And then the third thing being the gratitude. Does that work for emotional eating as well? Because you said it in a study, it reduced cravings. Yes. So yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, cravings, for any vice. Yeah. I'm specifically talking about drugs, including alcohol, but it can be for any vice, yeah.
What are your thoughts on non-alcoholic options? Because part of my brain says, well, they're mimicking alcoholic beverages with all the packaging and marketing to go with it, but they don't have alcohol. So what are your thoughts on those?
I think when someone's trying to rewire their mindset initially in the first 90 days, 3 months, and trying to create a long-term mind rewiring, I would invite people to refrain from even drinking alcohol-free alternatives. But once you've got to at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free and you've successfully rewired your mindset, and now you get to have power over alcohol, alcohol no longer has power over you, that would be the stage where you could start introducing some alcohol-free alternatives. The challenge with drinking alcohol-free alternatives as a direct and immediate substitute for alcohol is that the correlation is still there. And so, you go there and say, hey, can I get a Heineken Zero? Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have any Heineken Zero. Oh, okay, let me have a Heineken. And so that association and that correlation is still there. Again, after 90 days, assuming that you have gone through our process, you've rewired your mindset, you now realize that you get to be alcohol-free and that a special occasion is every day that you're alcohol-free, then I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with that. But again, I know I'm repeating myself. people can convince themselves, oh yeah, I'm just going to drink 0% beers. Well, what happens if there's no 0% beers? What are you going to do? Chances are you're probably going to order a beer. And then the slippery slope is very slippery.
I understand. Yep. Because you're still seeking out something about that experience or taste or flavor that was associated with the alcoholic version of it. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess you work with a lot of people. So what would you say is the biggest, in that first phase, that 90-day phase, the biggest thing that people do still struggle with? Maybe it's with the people around them. That's one thing that comes to mind, is just how you deal with your friends and your family. But what do you see?
What is the biggest struggle that people have when they're trying to quit?
Yes.
Yeah, it's cultural conditioning. It's not a physical withdrawal. I mean, I know that that's a real thing for a small percentage of the population, like a chemical dependency. But for most people who might consider themselves a gray area drinker, where they're not deemed bad enough to be an alcoholic, but it's bad enough that it's causing consequences, there's no real physical withdrawal. I mean, look, again, I'm not a doctor, but it's very much a psychological and habitual challenge that someone has. It's just they're so used to drinking this poison for years and decades, and because they're unaware or uneducated or haven't tried an alternative lifestyle, it just seems so challenging and so tough. And again, smiling assassins are everywhere. Friends, colleagues, staff, everyone, they're all smiling. Hey, have a drink. That's never going to stop. It's going to continue for years and decades. And even though there is a cultural change happening right now and people are increasingly turning their back on alcohol, it's not going to stop. People still smoke cigarettes today, even though we've known for 3 decades that it's not good for us. So it's never going to change. So, we really got to get comfortable being alcohol free. Not comfortable, but like euphoric that we're alcohol free. Yeah. And once we are, and other people see that and more people get on board, then our social circle becomes smiling, not assassins, but like smiling givers. Like that they're giving joy, they're giving pleasure, they're giving experiences. And we're seeing that so much now. Like there's a tidal wave of change happening across the world. Alcohol-free drinks have exploded. In Australia, my native country, they have these like sunrise raves now where there's no alcohol present. People show up an hour before the sun gets up and they have a DJ and they start dancing, going crazy, and then they celebrate the sun rising, all drug and alcohol-free. And then they're going for a swim and a run, and they're healthy, and they're connecting on a health level and a human level, not on a drug-fueled level. So, once people can get over that kind of social kind of obstacle that they're fearing and break through that, wow, then life gets to be just glorious.
Do you find that people who then go through that, is there a correlation with that and a health and fitness lifestyle, or a cause and effect even?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't drunk since 2010, and I spend time with a lot of very healthy people, and most of them either don't drink at all or drink sparingly. And most importantly, alcohol isn't a necessity for social lubricant, or for connection or fun. For example, a staff member of mine who works with me at Alcohol Free Lifestyle, it's his 41st birthday on Monday, and we're going out to a Japanese restaurant on Saturday night. I asked him who's coming. He told me, and I thought about it. I went, okay, yeah. I think there's maybe 2 out of 12 people who I know will drink. And when they drink, they won't be drinking excessively. They'll have like a drink or two. But the other 10 out of 12 people don't drink alcohol free. And I look at them and I go, they're measured. They've got good conscious communication, at least they appear to. I mean, who knows what goes on behind closed doors, but they seem like good people. They're good morals. They're not prone to irritability. They're not prone to reacting. They respond versus react. They look good. They're in the gym. I see them working out. They go for walks. They get sunlight. The conversations that I have with them is about nutrition and weight loss and weights and mindset and conscious communication and trying to be the best father or mother and trying to be the best leader and trying to be a great colleague. Like that's the kind of conversations that you have. And I always, I often say that how you look on the outside is often a reflection of how you feel about yourself on the inside. And so just a warning, you do get better looking when you stop drinking alcohol.
That's the selling point, man. That's so good. I mean, this is why I love talking to you guys like you on the show, because it is infectious to be around folks like that who share those goals. It made me think though, because you mentioned cigarettes. And I was thinking about like the deal makers and people in sales and a lot of the high achievers you probably deal with who do dinners, lots of dinners, or they go on the golf course or whatever. Is that culture any more challenging because of just how competitive it is and the deal making and kind of all of that? Or is this just a madman fantasy that I have?
I mean, I haven't drunk since 2010. I would consider myself a pretty successful businessman.
Yeah.
I've done deals, hired people, done joint venture deals, generated millions of dollars in sales across 2 different businesses. I guess society might say, oh, geez, that would be tough for you to do business because you can't entertain clients or you can't like do deals. You can't like soften people up with a few drinks. I've been doing it 15 years. Seems to have worked out okay for me. And then this whole idea about the golf buddies and stuff and going to the clubhouse at the 19th hole. I get it. Like the culture's drinking. Let's go back to the clubhouse, have a couple of beers. Ha, ha, ha. How about that like eagle you shot? Oh, geez, that double bogey was a nasty one. Great. Have all of that friendly banter, but do it while drinking a soda water ice and a piece of lime. Doesn't make you any less manly. In fact, it makes you more manly. Because I'll tell you, drinking alcohol destroys your testosterone levels, especially beer. Beer's got so much estrogen-producing crap in it. Men are like, oh, beer. The irony, right? The irony is that beer is associated with masculinity and testosterone, and yet it's a product that destroys your masculinity and testosterone.
And it gives you a big gut to boot over time.
Gives you a big gut, yeah. A lot of calories. In fact, just on that, can you have a guess on which 2 alcoholic drinks generally have the most toxins in them?
The most toxins?
Mm-hmm.
Is it? It's not some sort of mixed drink?
Mm-hmm. It's red wine and beer.
Okay.
Most toxins. The least toxins is tequila.
It's also gluten-free. That used to be its selling point.
Yeah. If you're going to drink tequila, and if you're going to drink tequila, that's the least bad for you.
Right.
The worst in terms of toxins, if you measure toxins, is red wine and beer.
Yeah. No, because you mentioned the cigarettes, and I know guys who everything they do is health focused, except they'll pull out a cigar, every now and then to celebrate. Right. It's just a thing. It's just like with alcohol in the culture. All right. Well, is there anything, I know there's a lot we could have covered. I wanted to touch on the main points of why we do this. You gave us a great framework for that initial transformation not away from alcohol, but embracing an alcohol-free lifestyle, right? Embracing what it is to be a healthy person. Is there anything I didn't ask that you wish you want to get out there for the listener?
No, I don't think so. Other than just a call to arms, so to speak, which is, like culture is going to want to keep you stuck in mediocrity. And in my view, and this is my life's work, the mediocrity is created through the drift, and the drift is created through consistent, socially acceptable drinking. Socially acceptable drinking, but drinking nonetheless. And I would just invite you to re-explore your relationship with alcohol. I write about this in my book, which is called Clear. It's available online wherever any books are sold. There's an Audible version as well where you can put me on 2 speed if you like and get through the book in 4 hours instead of 8 hours at normal speed. And, it starts to embrace this new identity. Look, I get that not drinking is a threat to your current reality and your current identity. And the fear is that who will I be if I'm not a drinker? Who will I be? I won't be the fun guy. I won't be the romantic guy or the girl. I won't be the cool host anymore. This is such an identity threat. And I get that. But really, if you explore, what's it giving you? If it's giving you mediocrity and you're stuck in the drift of life and you're meandering and you're floating and you don't like it and you've got less time on this planet than you've already lived, it's time for a change. And change can feel scary. I get that. So I really acknowledge those who take the leap and take the plunge. And if you'd like more details, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/clear, and that'll give you details about the book. Or just go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com, and there's some details there about our 90-day and year-long stop drinking processes. And I'm on Instagram at James Swanwick, lots of free tips and tricks. And we've got a podcast as well, Alcohol Free Lifestyle. You can dig into that a lot deeper as well.
All right. So I'm definitely going to include all of those in. By the way, if you're Amazon Unlimited, which I am, you can get the book for free. Hopefully you get a cut of that, even those. I don't know how that works, but the book Clear, your Instagram, and also the podcast. We'll include all those in the show notes. And if you are looking to take the leap and get out of the mediocrity and the drifting through life, this is the way to do it. Thank you so much, James, for coming on the show.
Philip, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.